Right about now, the first day of a gun conference would likely be wrapping up at the Riverside Hotel in Garden City. Would likely have been. But the 4-day conference was canceled yesterday by the hotel because of whom event organizers advertised as being a big part of it. Now let's be clear, it wasn't just any old gathering of gun owners. This was supposed to be the Lethal Force Gun Laws 2021 Tactics and Strategies Conference. And if that title doesn't grab your attention, how about the name of the special guest? George Zimmerman. The plan was to have the Florida man who shot and killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin back in 2012 in attendance as a guest speaker. You may remember, Martin was just walking in a neighborhood in Sanford, Florida, when Zimmerman thought he looked suspicious. Despite a dispatcher telling him to not get out of his car, Zimmerman did just that and approached the teenager, eventually shooting him. It took more than a month for Zimmerman to be charged with the death of the 17-year-old after claiming he shot him in self-defense, leaning on Florida's Stand Your Ground law. Because there wasn't anyone to contradict Zimmerman's version of events, he was later acquitted of second-degree murder. So at this event, to be held at the Riverside Hotel, attendees were going to hear George describe the events of that night in a chronological, step-by-step narrative. You will hear exactly what happened, the description says, directly from George. Once and for all, we will all come away knowing the truth. 5 nights, 4 days, all for $4 grand. A local conference was going to highlight someone at the center of a very public example of racial profiling and the deadly outcome of it. Basically, hear how one man did it legally and how you can too. So this event got the attention of several Treasure Valley residents, and they took to social media to express their dismay that the hotel was allowing this conference to take place on their property. And the outcry gained some steam throughout the week. Then on Wednesday, the Hotel Riverside announced it had disinvited George Zimmerman from the event. And then by yesterday afternoon, the day before it was to begin, they canceled the event entirely, saying, "We would like to extend our gratitude to everyone on social media who alerted us to the fact that George Zimmerman was scheduled to speak at a conference being held at the Riverside Hotel this week. We recognize the immense pain that George Zimmerman has inflicted on many of our guests, team members, and community. We are unequivocally opposed to providing George Zimmerman a platform, and he is not welcome at the Riverside Hotel." They added they weren't aware of who was on the event's guest list or the details of what this conference was to be about. But from now on, they said, they will require a full list of speakers in advance for all events. The hotel ended its statement by saying, "We will always stand up for what we believe is right," end quote. And that decision by the Riverside Hotel earned them some praise in the community. But not quite from everyone. While it may be obvious as to why you wouldn't want someone like George Zimmerman as a guest anything, we wanted some perspective on why this might be a bad look for Boise. Philip Thompson, the executive director of Idaho's Black History Museum, says this isn't just on the event organizer.
This isn't like a conservative liberal issue. This isn't a gun rights, gun control. This is simply, a young kid was murdered because you chose to be, rent-a-cop with an attitude. There's so many other people they could have brought as far as like gun rights and the right to gun ownership and self-defense, but lethal gun laws, really? So your intent is to take the life of somebody and us giving you the legal acumen to do so. There's nothing debatable. There's no two sides to that. Just look at the title of what they call the conference. So if you feel that life is sacred and we shouldn't, find ways to orchestrate and kill people within the law, then you probably don't want to have that event. But this faux moral high ground that the hotel's taking, that, oh, were we not aware? Oh, we didn't have any idea of what was transpiring. Oh, we didn't know who was going to be here. They went through this 3 years ago with the Charles Murray issue. Same painful lesson. So either their organization needs to have some leadership conversations about, hey, let's not go through this every so often, or they need to vet what's going on more thoroughly, or the fact that it titled lethal gun laws might be an idea of that you're not something you want to push, and not only cancel it because of the reaction of the public. It's just totally insincere. Had the people not found out and then raised hell about it, it would have went on. It's very similar to the event 3 years ago. Same principle.
So yes, the Riverside Hotel has had to cancel events before at their venue. out of the respect and safety of their guests and staff and community. And you heard Philip mention it there. Back in the summer of 2017, the Idaho Freedom Foundation was hosting a banquet and planned to have Charles Murray speak. Murray wrote the book, The Bell Curve, back in the 1990s. In it, he wrote about the intellectual differences between races. It was called Racist, and he would show up at other events around the country, and there were protesters there to meet him. So the Riverside canceled that event with a week's notice because they feared for the safety of their guests and their staff. So as Philip put it, you would think the hotel would have learned with that incident to be more proactive in vetting their events. And it shouldn't take the risk of a financial hit, he says, to raise their concern. But the hotel told us today they did learn their lesson 4 years ago. Kristen Jensen told us today in an email, after that IFF Charles Murray fiasco, they put a venue's right of refusal clause in their contracts. Without reading all of this legalese out loud to you, it basically says the hotel has a right to refuse or cancel an event based on any controversial speaker or subject matter that doesn't keep with the hotel's image or creates a safety or security issue. Now, that was put in place back in 2017. So what happened with this week if that was already in place? How did this event, with a scheduled speaker like George Zimmerman, make it to the day before it was supposed to take place? Well, Jensen told us, for large and high-profile events, we do try to research the scheduled speakers to the best of our ability. However, this week's event was neither large nor high-profile. It was only supposed to be about 20 to 25 people in attendance. And the hotel was told it was a simple gun safety training course, something they say they've hosted in the past without a problem. Well, they apparently weren't aware the simple gun safety course was being called Lethal Force Gun Laws 2021 Tactics and Strategies. However, the hotel made it clear it is the event planner's responsibility to let them know of any controversial speakers or content that is planned. We did try several times today to ask the event planner about this, a Mr. Heron of the Old School Gun School based in Washington. We left several messages with him, and we were actually hung up on once. We have yet to hear back. But because of what transpired this week, the hotel tells us they've actually amended that right of refusal clause, adding a requirement of a 30-day notice of all scheduled speakers.